Hello, I'm Eric Vickery, President of Coaching at All Star Dental Academy. With me is Dr. Michael Goldberg at Practice Perfect Systems, and we are back. We've been
Yeah.
both been very, very, very busy, but we're back with our monthly fireside chats, just talking about anything that's a hot topic for us with our clients. He has his clients, All Star, we have our clients, and it's just we all run into the same sort of things. So it's always good for us to mastermind, talk about these things. And today we're going to talk about conflict resolution. Not that anyone that's listening to this would ever have a conflict. This is for somebody else you need to forward this to. That's what we'll do. So if you hear this, oh, I know that Dr. Bob needs this, just forward this to Dr. Bob and we'll send it on. So Dr. Goldberg, it's good to see you. Let's jump right in. Let's jump into conflict resolution. Let's go about 20, 25 minutes here and let's dig through this. So how do you deal with this? Is it identifying that it even exists? Are people burying their head in the sands? What's the approach?
So I think the approach first is as we're dental practices. We're all about prevention. So
Mm,
I think it has to start with prevention. Um, and I like the Harvey McKay says that agreements prevent disagreements. So I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I I help my clients develop a culture guide.
hmm
So a culture guide, we do an exercise that identifies the practice owner's values. And then the culture guide is how those values are put into action through the different relationships in the practice, between the practice and the staff, between the practice and the patients, between the staff and the patients,
hmm
between the staff and themselves, between the staff and the doctors. In each one of those interactions, this is how we do things here.
hmm
And that
Yeah.
becomes part of the onboarding process
hmm
so that people read, okay, here's our culture guide. Here's how we do things. And you have to agree to it. It has to be signed. And then when there's someone who's acted contrary to our culture,
Yeah.
it's okay, here's the culture guide. You read it and agreed to it. What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
So that's the preventive part of it. But
Yeah.
we're all human. Stuff happens. We get stressed. We may, overreact in a moment. How do you deal with it? And that too should have a system to it
Yeah.
because oftentimes these things are dealt with in the hallway, and things dealt with in the hallway never go well. It's like, doctors should never be at the front desk
Yeah.
because
Why are
that
you
doesn't,
here? You don't have a
yeah,
patient? What's happening?
right. Doctors at the front desk never go well. And and conflict discussions in the hallway never go
Never go
well.
well. Yeah.
Right.
You're hot right there too. Yeah. So
Well,
many
that's it.
good. Yeah. Let's go back to a couple things. So
Yeah.
we have to systematize our guidelines. And the culture word is that we use culture commandments. You've heard core values before. These are your guiding principles. So your vision typically will you can extract after you share vision what your goal action plan is and what your core values are. Develop those, talk about them, define what they are and define what they are not, right? This is huge. This is huge. And you got to make sure that then now that is, for lack of a better term, I guess, policing it. That's your checks and balance. It's your accountability system. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned the onboarding process. Here it is. Here's our cultures. Let's go through this. Let's talk about what these things are. Oh shoot, I'm gonna forget his name. Oh gosh, entre leadership guy, Dave Ramsey does a great job at this right here. Incredible job. Yeah, love his stuff. And in the onboarding process, this is a key statistic that we need to remember. In dentistry, we only have a 40% success rate to day 91. That means 60% of new hires are dropping out between day one, interview to day 89, 90. That's
Yeah.
pretty low.
And frankly, so why 90? Because that's what we most have, what's what we all have in our office manual, that our probation period is 90 days. That's when your benefits are going to start, etc. I question that. I think, frankly, that you probably know whether somebody's going to work out or not
Hmm.
3 weeks,
Hmm.
three
Pretty
months,
quickly. Yeah.
right? And the problem with waiting 3 months is that people get attached. They get attached, right? You get attached to people within 3 months. So when someone's not working out and your attitude is, oh, maybe we have to try something like this or do something different. But if they're not a cultural fit
Hmm.
in 3 weeks,
You know.
chan- chances are
Yeah.
they're not going to be a cultural fit
Yeah.
in three
Yeah.
months.
Yeah,
So then,
and I think we sit them down in their chair and go, "There's the phone, answer it." There's no onboarding at all. We don't even have that, and so you have to have a system set up for this as well.
oh, it's all everything systems, right?
There's a quote by James Clear. He says, "People don't rise to the level of their goals; they fall to the level of their systems." I
Right.
love that quote. It's what our Austin event, our live event this year was based around. It's like we got to get back foundationally to your systems being put in place before you can do all this fun, fluffy stuff out here.
Right. And Deming said that every system is ideally designed to get the results it gets.
Yes, you get the results based on the system. Let's keep going. Denming, 94, and I can't remember, 93% of all success is in your system or something like that. He's a quote like that as well. I don't know. 72% of all statistics are made up on the spot, so it's okay.
Right. And was it culture eats strategy for
Yeah, for
breakfast?
breakfast. Yeah. We have to systematize the culture process. That's from generating it, that's to the accountability, to the onboarding. I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we do the prevention stuff, and yet conflicts arise. We call it the three R's: resistance, resentment, revenge. Something happens. I am annoyed by you. I resent you now. And now there's a conflict, and we need to have a conversation. Or you as a leader identifying two people have to have a conversation. Let's just talk about how do we address that? What's the approach? What's the system for that?
So, the great book, Crucial Conversations. I forgot who wrote it.
Yes.
I have it upstairs. Um, Great book, and a great outline for how to have these conversations. So the first thing is, when should these conversations occur?
Yes.
Where they should occur, and then who needs to be involved.
I can see the
Then,
book. It's red, and I can't see the author of it. Hold on one second.
yes, it is red.
Patterson and somebody. Yes, Patterson and somebody.
Uh,
And by the way, Culture Code by Daniel Coyle is a great book
Great.
for culture generation if you want to read that one. And then Crucial Conversation is the book. So yeah, sorry, keep going.
And The Five Dysfunctions of the Team by Lencioni.
Patrick Lencioni. He's a great podcast too, by the way. He's got a great
Yes.
podcast out there as well. Not as good as the stuff we do, but yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But what?
Uh,
You know what? I have to, but the stuff that we do is all based. I mean,
yeah,
we didn't come up with this stuff from thin
yeah,
air.
yeah.
I didn't learn it. You know, I don't know if I had an advantage coming into dentistry. Um, I had a family had a business, and I saw how the family business was run.
Yeah.
We're not taught that stuff in dental school. How do you pick it up? Well, you pick it up by, you look at the first job that you took and, you take something from that. You take something from some of the colleagues that you speak to, the podcasts, the nachos that you gain from places, and you
Yeah.
cobble together
Yep.
a system. And then you and I, will come into a practice and we're faced with this cobbled together mishmash of, unstrategically built systems.
Mm-hmm.
Some, if they're there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Yes.
and but I did it, and I had a leg up. But then I found Dan Kennedy and Robert Cialdini and my friend Charlie Martin, whose mastermind I joined, um, and started reading,
Yeah.
you know, Good to Great, Five
Yep.
Dysfunctions of the Team, 1 Minute Manager,
Oh yeah.
um,
Ken Blanchard. Yeah.
Who stole my
Yeah.
cheese,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of those, and it was those. None of those books are written by dentists.
Yeah. We're just bringing that information in. I think it's who moved the cheese. Who moved the cheese? Who moved my cheese?
And who
Is it
moved
who
my
stole the
cheese?
cheese?
Who
Okay.
moved my cheese?
Yeah. Who moved the cheese? Who moved my cheese? Yeah.
Right,
That's a
by
fun. You can watch a video
Spencer
on that one too.
Spencer
That one's good.
Spencer Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good one. So let's say the conversation, so crucial conversations, let's say it has to happen now. How do you simplify? I mean, there's a lot of steps in the book. Have you simplified that? I've simplified it for our clients to use, but how do you simplify it? Identifying that a conversation needs to be had, who's going to be there, the place, it's not in the hallway, and then what are the steps that you would say you
So,
utilize in this
so first
conversation?
thing, so first thing I think is when the conflict occurs,
Mm-hmm.
you have to defuse it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a key.
Mm-hmm.
So people want to be heard. They don't want to be ignored.
Yeah.
So you have to say, you know what? This is really important. And I want to give you the attention that this deserves. Let's reserve a time where
Yeah.
to, where that
Yeah.
is, right? So we can deal with this because it's really important.
Yeah.
So you've given whoever the conflict is with, right? Somebody comes up to you with a, a raging problem. You did it. You know what? This is really important. Thank you for bringing it up. Let's set up a time where we can really help figure this out so that it doesn't happen again.
Mm,
So you're
yeah.
giving somebody the benefit to them is that they don't want it to happen again.
And they don't want to
So,
rush through it right then and there. People are hot.
right. Because that's what happens in most offices. These things are recurring themes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want that.
Mm-mm.
So depending on what the issue is it a personality issue, which oftentimes is a communication problem? Is it a systems issue? Um, is it a cultural conflict? So depending on what the conflict is, will depend on, how we go about resolving it. But I'm curious, what's your structure? I know you have a
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah. So just to echo what you're saying, this is good. The solution often lies in effective communication, and the key word is effective. The solution often lies in effective communication. And the assumption was made that you knew what you're doing with that system. Oh, I need to communicate how to deliver that system. Oh, I thought you understood our culture on this. Oh, we're not repeating our culture every week. We're not going back through a culture thing. The Ritz, they have 24 core values. Every day they visit one of those. So every 24 days they're going back through one of those at their morning huddle. We don't go back. We write them, we talk about them, we stuff them in a book, and we don't come back to them like, all right, they're done. You have to effectively communicate through all these things. Then these things come up. You go back to them or visit. Remember, was our agreement. So our structure is, you mentioned Kim Blanchard's the 1 Minute Manager. It's to take that same concept and every month, no matter what, leadership and team member have a one-on-one meeting. It is scheduled, it is prioritized, and you already have the time set aside to deal with them. It's about 15 minutes a month. So you got 8 team members, and it's not destroying your schedule. You could do, 2 a week and still get to everybody. Bigger offices, now you have to have integration. You have to have an integrator on your team, and he or she's the one that's having meetings with these people, and then it works its way to you if need be as a leader. But in that conversation, I try to break it down to four steps, four simple steps, where it's think about emotional deposits and emotional withdrawals, that 3 to 1. So I'm going to take the lumps first as a leader. What do you, well, I mean, you can do your small talk. That's kind of the first step, build up, build, how's the family, all that. But a couple minutes, don't get distracted. Then it's transition statement into questions. And I say something like this. I say, Michael, I want to make sure that you and I are the best dynamic duo moving forward. We're a part of the best team possible, and you and I are the greatest teammates that we can be. In order to do that, we have to effectively communicate as often as possible with the things that are going well so we can echo those and keep repeating them. But we also have to talk about the things that aren't going as well, and that's okay because we want to work through them and get to them. So at the end of this conversation, whatever I need to do for you, I want to make sure I'm doing so that we become more effective moving forward. Does that sound fair? So it's a permission statement, right? It's that transition statement into it. So I set it up instead of saying, Michael, we need to talk about something. Ugh, ugh, that's rough. And then I go into what do you need from me? How can I support you? Think about onboarding. What do you need from me? How? What and how? What and how? What and how? As leadership. And now I'm making emotional deposits with you because you have the freedom and the choice to talk about what you need from me and you feel safe. And I'm leading by example, showing you, look, I can take this. I think uh, leaders who can't be taught, that's a problem. That's a real problem. If we don't think there's something for us to learn, now I've taught you, you don't have to learn anything either. And I'm not growing, and therefore it stifles your growth. Is that right? Then I'm going to shift it. Then I'm going to shift it, and I'm going to say, now I've taken some lumps, I've taken making some deposits, and now I'm going to make a withdrawal. And I'm going to use questions to do that. And I'm going to simply state, Michael, we were talking about our culture value of when you're early, you're on time. When you're on time, you're late. When you're late, you're lost. And I noticed the last month, it's been a struggle for you, fitting into that and adhering to that culture we have. Tell me, how can I support you in this? Tell me what's going on. Share with me what's going on in your world. Whatever open-ended question you want to ask there. I love how questions, if you can fit that in. Let them talk it out a bit. Look for excuses, weed out excuses, and look for challenges that you can coach them through. And then it's action plan. Last thing is, okay, so moving forward, here's what I hear you saying you want to do. Bop, 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 bop. If you're unable to do that, what do you think we ought to do about that? So there's your sections that you're going through. It's if I were to break it down in this example, it's hey, personal transition statement, emotional deposits, transition to emotional withdrawals through questions, create an action plan, and then accountability to that action plan. What do they think we should do? So how does that align with how you're doing it? I know I'm probably abbreviating it pretty quickly here for us.
Well, and I have to say it's for you and I, this is almost second nature now.
Mm-hmm.
But for most dental owners,
Mm-hmm.
for you know, practitioners, staff alike, it's not. And it takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like, how do you deal with a client that says, I don't have the time for that?
And I saw you when I went 15 minutes a month, you went, I saw this. Yeah. I would say it goes back to your prevention thing. I don't think you have time not to do it because what's worse, having to rehire people? Why do you have a rehiring process? Why do you keep having to rehire people? Because you have a culture issue. Why do you have a culture issue? Because you're not carving out the time to work on your business, not in your business. So it's prevention. We talk about it in dentistry all the time. That's how we led with this. It's a prevention method. And Gallup talks about the annual review is dead. Move from boss to coach. And this is a simple way to implement this. You're moving from a boss who does an annual review. And now, Michael, you remember back last October when you told the patient XYZ, that's a problem for us. We got you to work on that. No, they don't remember what went on 7 months ago. That's 8 months ago. They're not remembering that. But if I'm meeting with you every 30 days, things are fresh in our minds. We're constantly working on things. I've got an action plan in front of me that you said you wanted to work on. I'm creating accountability every month. And there's only two reasons why people think they're getting called into the doctor's office. I'm getting a raise or I'm getting fired. I'm in trouble or I'm doing awesome. This is not
Right.
about that. This is not about that.
Right. And in most practices, unfortunately, it it's the staff member that asks for the meeting when these things aren't regular. And that's usually never a good thing.
Hmm.
I'm curious, um, you mentioned coach,
Hmm.
and does the coach have to be the doctor?
No, that's where integrator, traction, EOS model comes into play. It depends on how you've set up the hierarchy. It depends on your organizational structure.
Right, right. So that's the organizational structure is key. And frankly, unless the doctor has the innate ability to do this, um, has the time to do it, um, then I usually recommend that it not be the doc. Um, that it be, and that's part of hiring, having an organizational structure that has the right person in that position.
Hmm.
There needs to be somebody in that organizational chart that
Hmm.
has those skills,
Yeah.
that is trained to do.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so I work with a very large DSO.
Hmm.
Um, and and I asked them, I said, what do you do for conflict resolution? How do you teach your quarterbacks? That's what they call the different managers.
I like
Uh,
that.
how do you teach your quarterbacks conflict resolution? They don't.
Oh,
So I'm now developing
yeah.
a course
Yeah.
on conflict resolution,
Yeah.
um, and how
Prevent
to
it and deal with it.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, prevention is definitely the key.
Yes.
Part of the hiring process is I think a lot of problems occur because of poor hiring. You just hire
We're so desperate. We're so desperate for
well,
people.
and that's right. So this was a big issue with the with COVID and the
Yeah.
Great Resignation.
Post COVID. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because everybody was just trying to fill in holes.
Yep.
And,
Still, I think
and
I think there's still a wave of that.
so there's certainly a wave of that in hygiene.
Hmm.
Um, Big wave of
Yes.
that because those
Yes.
are very challenging positions to fill.
We just
Uh,
read by 2031, based on graduation rates and openings and retirements, we'll have a 55% lack of workforce. That's incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the hygiene. What's interesting is though the hygiene groups are fighting against expanded duties for.
Yes. Assistance to do the hygiene.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
there are in your state, I think
Nevada,
you have
Nevada's
corona.
having the big issue right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they all passed a ruling, I guess, I don't know if it's law, a ruling that kind of like expanded functions could do some of hygiene, not all of hygiene. And the
Coronal
hygiene,
polish. They call it
yeah,
coronal polish. Yeah.
yeah, California, you can have that licensure already. So I
Yeah.
don't know why people are upset about it. We don't have enough hygienists. There's no
No.
reason to get upset about it. And I guarantee, even if you had an assistant who was doing that, it is a stopgap till we get a hygienist who went to school to do that. The dentist will move them over to that. The assistant won't want to do that forever anyway. So we don't need to get up in arms about it. We just need to relax and recognize this is something to help our profession.
Yep.
But we digress.
Yes. As we often do.
Yes, that's why it's a fireside chat. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So it's interesting. So I like. I like their, so you talk about the organizational chart. So on the organizational chart, I like to have coaches and I like to have guides. So I think that everyone in a dental office is a guide. They're guiding patients through the process. So they're patient advocates, if you would. They're guides.
Yeah.
And then you have coaches who are internal, who deal with these conflicts. I need a day off. I want to take vacation here, but she's taking vacation there. All of those things that just come up all the time. And from a from an owner perspective, is really what's sort of grating on them.
Hmm.
The dentistry is hard enough when you're dealing with people under stress.
Hmm.
When you're dealing with a team that's also under stress,
Patient doesn't like that.
and the owner doesn't like it. I mean, that's
Hmm.
why so many, again, you talk about COVID and the Great Resignation. That's why so many people have thrown up their hands. The DSOs say, you know what, doctor? You don't have to worry about that anymore. We're going to take care of all that stuff. You do your dentistry. That's a bunch of BS.
Still, it's still there.
They're not
It's
living
still
in your
there.
they're not living in your office with all these
You're
people
not
with
in a
all
bubble. No, no.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
And
might have
and
some handholding, you might have some support, but it's not going to replace it.
but
Agreed.
even this DSO that I'm dealing with, they don't have courses that they give their people for on conflict resolution.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or prevention of it. And I
Right.
think Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is probably another book on this. We all know that one.
Or
And he talks in there, what's
eaters eat
that?
last.
Leaders Eat Last,
That's
E-Myth.
another.
We're talking about E-Myth. We're talking about Traction, EOS. I mean, these are all the books we're talking about here that develop this stuff. In the book, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, I think in there or his TED Talk, I can't remember which, but he talks about this echoing effect or the game of telephone where you whisper in someone's ear and they whisper someone's ear. And the further they are out from the vision and disconnected from that center hub person, the more watered down the why becomes
Uh-huh.
diluted. There's the word diluted. It becomes, you write so well. I should just ask you what word I should use. And it just goes out and out and out. And then this person out here is just doing their own thing because there's no accountability. They're too many steps removed. So yes, I do think, and our integrator, Shelly, our COO, does an incredible job coaching, is an incredible job running All Star. She teaches integrator training. You're that person between the doctor and the team. How do you have these meetings? How do you keep the team accountable? How do you do these well? And it absolutely can be a team member and it absolutely can be the doctor. Either. It depends on, I think, the size of the organization determines a lot of that. And I think sometimes it's both of them doing it. Eventually the doctor can step away. Sometimes that's how it has to go. And I think what I would say, let's wrap up here and say this. Are you having someone on your team schedule monthly one-on-ones with your team members to have these preventive, crucial conversations? That's number one. Do you have a culture guide set up, ready to go? Do you need help with that? Let us know. Let's see. Are you reviewing that culture, say weekly, maybe every week, review one or two of them? What else would you say? What is another action plan item I just missed?
So I think looking at people's body language
Hmm.
during meetings
Yeah.
is really another preventive key. So just a little. So I had a hygienist who was a great hygienist. I mean, but she was the kind of person. Um, there's a profile called the Team Dimensions profile, and one of the sections is a refiner. A
Hmm.
refiner is somebody who, when you present them with something, they will find all the problems and holes with it.
Mm,
She was a refiner.
got it.
I identified that. So before we had a meeting where we were discussing, and we had morning, weekly, monthly
Yeah.
meeting, different type, different. That's what we can go over that another time. Talk about the schedule of meetings, which I think is key. Before that meeting, though, I would have a one-on-one with this hygienist
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is what we're going to discuss on this meeting. I'd like you to tell me what I'm missing here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she either brings it up during the meeting in a negative fashion, or she sits there with her arms folded, right? Neither of those things are good.
Yep.
And that's how you don't get things done. So, you know what? I mean, I think meetings, these kinds of conversations, um, I think that's one of the systems that most practices are actually missing.
We just again we just did our live event. It was all on systems to growth, and having huddles, weekly meetings for training, and a monthly meeting, and a quarterly meeting, and a fun outing. It all plays a part. There are no successful organizations out there in the world who skip this.
So, look,
Why do we
that's
think we can do that in dentistry?
and you know what winds up happening? I'm dealing this now with a client who's having a very successful practice, but it's successful. It He started small, and again,
Hmm.
things were cobbled together, by, going to a meeting and hearing something or reading something or, listening to a podcast. Um, and but it's not cohesive at all. And it's like the EOS, or I like the scaling up system. You know, you can get by with mom and pop systems up to about $750,000.
Mm,
When you go to get over 1 million, you need different
mm.
people and systems.
Structure,
Right.
structure.
And
Yeah.
and and now, this guy's at over $2 million
Hmm.
and he's flailing. Things are things are all over the place.
Hmm. Yeah.
So how do you
Organizational structure, systems.
organizational
Yeah.
structure?
Love it. Love
Pat,
it.
also Pat Lencioni's Death by Meetings. Really another one of those really good
That might be
books.
me. That might be me. Meetings all day long, every single day. Yeah,
Well, no,
death by
so
meetings.
no, no, no. You want I live in academia.
Oh,
You
yeah.
want to talk death by meetings. Nothing ever gets done. And any meeting or any committee only generates other meetings
Another
or other
another
committees.
meeting.
And I just said, nope, I'm not on any more committees. That's it.
No more boards, no more meetings, no more committees. All right. Well, I really appreciate this. It was crucial that we had this conversation today. I've been waiting to say that. I've been waiting to say that. If you're thinking you want help with this, obviously, both of us offer coaching to you. You can look up Practice Perfect Systems. You can look up All Star Dental Academy. We're here for you. We love supporting. We just love what we do. So, again, thank you, Dr. Michael Goldberg, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this. Please share it, send it off to someone who you need to have a crucial conversation with.
Thank you, Eric. It's
All
great,
right.
great to
Awesome.
get back on the horse.
Yes. Yes. Love it. All right. Thank you, everyone.